Welcome back to Maximum News. This is the sick edition. If I sound like I'm not interested in being here, that's absolutely not the case. I just feel like I'm dying. Not literally dying, but I just feel like I am. A lot of stuff that happened this past week. A lot of smaller stories. So many of them, in fact, that Saib thought that we should try a little something new when it came to approaching all these short stories. So off the top, we're going to go through, just give you a bunch of brief headlines, maybe add in a little bit of commentary here or there, and then we saved a bunch of bigger stories for the end. Sound good? All right. I might cue up some music for this and then cut it out when we're done. I don't know. We'll see. So, starting off, Saib, what's going on with BioWare?
So BioWare has announced that Dreadwolf, the next Dragon Age game, is in alpha. After all this time, how many years has it been since we got the teaser? Well, it's now in alpha, which means that there's anywhere between 2 to 3 more years left on it. And I don't know why they announced this.
What was the last game they put out? Was it Anthem? When was that?
It was Anthem. That
4
was the
years
last
ago?
game they put out. I think, yeah. Wow, that's pretty terrible when you think about it. But don't worry. They also added that, hey, they are working on the next Mass Effect, and that it's going to be, drumroll, shocking, a single-player game.
Oh, I would hope so.
It literally is shocking. Yeah, I was literally floored. I was like, what? No microtransactions? Well, the microtransactions might still be there. But it's going to be a single-player game, so it's not going to be, heavily multiplayer. I never minded the multiplayer in Mass Effect. It was decent a fair bit. Like I played it with a ton of friends, and it was really good in the sense of like playing with friends, but it was the microtransactions that made it distasteful. Right. So
yeah, I always heard good things about the Mass Effect multiplayer, obviously the single player, but I had friends that played the multiplayer as well. Hopefully we'll get Mass Effect before Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and that will satiate people for the next few years. Next one.
Phil Spencer.
Yeah, he made some comments on the metaverse. It's this thing that I keep hearing. I think it's Mr. Zuckerberg over at Facebook that's the main cheerleader for it. Well, Phil Spencer for Glorious Xbox was giving an interview on Wall Street Journal Live, and he said he just isn't impressed by the metaverse. The actual quote that he gave was, "Today, it's a poorly built video game. Building a metaverse that's like a living room is not how I want to spend my time." I tend to agree with him, although low-key, if he ever did invest, I wouldn't mind watching Master Chief and Doom Guy duke it out in my living room, in a virtual living room, you know?
Yeah. Metaverse has also lost $9.4 billion. Yeah, billion. $9.4 billion.
Yeah, who's using it aside from like really rich people that can afford like VR headsets and stuff?
It's not even the best like meta, like the best like virtual space like chat room game. Yeah. Like
what there's VR chat. Hell, I would probably even play Fortnite before I use that thing.
Yeah. So metaverse Vulcan Post has said that Metaverse loses 1/4 of its value in a day as Zuckerberg, good lord, Zuckerberg continues to pursue the Metaverse delusion. Ooh, some spicy posts on this one, guys. So, 9.4 billion gone in just a short period of time. I wonder what you could have done with $9.4 billion if you were even just half interested in doing a good job.
To use that to pay off my fiance's student loans. I'll just wait until Gabe Newell comes out with his version of it when it's actually probably something that's worth doing, because we know that's something that he's probably going to be pursuing instead of Half-Life 3. Next, there's a study. I can't recall who did it. Maybe you can tell me that, Saib. That tested 9 and 10-year-olds, both of whom, like, they had a sample size of people that played 21 hours of games a week at least, and then kids that didn't play it at all. And what they were able to determine was that gamers outperformed non-gamers at tasks involving impulse control and memory, which is good. It's inconclusive, though, if those kids got cognitive benefits from playing games or if they already had them and then just sought the games out. But that's not important. Kids, if you're listening, just use this as an excuse to play multiple hours of games a week and fall back on your studies.
Yep, very important. This was the University of Vermont, by the way.
Thank you.
All right, so we've got another interesting story here about Square Enix. Square Enix has finally decided to listen to what I told them over a decade ago, and that was that putting all their games on just the PC, just the PlayStation, and ignoring the PC and the Xbox was actually a really dumb idea. Yeah, they have officially recognized this now, and they've put out this statement stating that achieving major growth in the game industry is difficult now for companies to compete primarily in the Japanese market, given graying demographics. As such, it is critical for our business that we produce large titles that speak to a global market. Yada, 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 yada. Basically, this means, hey, we're going to be trying to put our games onto more stuff. Really? You realize this now, after 2 decades?
Well, I will congratulate them on one thing. At least it seems like they're finally capable of self-reflection.
Yeah.
That and what was the other thing I was about to say? Yeah, I guess it just took the major failure of Babylon's Fall for them to finally realize, maybe it's something that we're doing that's wrong. Yeah. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to see some ports over to the Xbox of their beloved titles. Yep.
And again, this is a
maybe they'll fix the ones that they have on PC already. Yeah.
And this just points out, like, I just want to point this out again. This problem has been with a lot of Japanese developers over the years, especially Nintendo. The fact that they have just not only like ignored, but in some cases actually like hatefully snubbed people who were begging to give them money. And they said, no, we don't care. They still are saying, no, we don't care. There are a number of games that I would pay like $20 for right now that are more than like 15, 20 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, if somebody came out and said, hey, this game is out here, $20, I would immediately pay that. There are some that I would probably pay $80 to $100 for. Why? Because they're my favorite. They're from my youth. And again, Square Enix, Nintendo, and other companies have decided, yeah, you know what? We just really don't like, people who aren't here and speak our language. Which, I mean, it's just weird when you're trying to make money. Yeah. And which is, again, it's even weirder when these same companies have been in a cash crunch of not having enough money. That like, I mean, if you want to like make, shoes and sell them to like a sliver of the economy, like, okay, all the power to you. That's your choice. But when you start crying that you're not making enough money and that you might go bankrupt, and there's like, 20 other people outside your door every single day saying, hey, we'll pay you like, $500 for these shoes, and you still don't sell it to them, you only have yourself to blame. So, yeah. Yeah.
There's just some people that enjoy hating the West more than they do enjoy making money.
Yep.
And if you think that's ridiculous, there's a little country called China that I'd like to introduce you to. All right. Speaking of lots and lots of money, Sonic the Hedgehog has sold 1.5 billion units in its franchise since its original debut in 1991. Now, just to give you some perspective here, Sega, the people that own Sonic, their second biggest franchise, just under Sonic, is Total War. And guess how many that franchise is sold in comparison, Syb?
About 2,000, right?
Well, it might as well be, like, in terms of how small the percentage is. Yeah. No, give me a serious guess.
I would say like 5 million.
No, it's more than that. Come on. Like the entire Total War.
The entire Total War series. So that's probably like what, 35 million?
Yes.
25?
Yeah, well that was close. It's 40.4.
Okay, 40.4. That's really good.
Yeah, it's good.
But nowhere near 1.5 billion.
Yeah. Here you got, like, imagine Total War represents the total number of Zoroastrians there are in the world, and then Sonic represents the Christians or the Muslims. that's what we're dealing with here in terms of numbers. It's kind of nuts. I mean, people love Sonic, and Sonic has been doing pretty decently lately. People have enjoyed the movies. I've enjoyed the movies. I think he's had 1 or 2 good releases lately, and we're all hoping that Sonic Frontiers turns out well. I'll probably, frankly, be playing that before I play God of War Ragnarok, unfortunately, just because I still need to finish the 2018 one, low-key. Shh, don't tell anybody. But yeah, congrats to Sonic. Here's to many more years of success, hopefully.
Yep. One of my favorite titles as a kid, especially. Mm. So there's this video game called... oh dear, I forgot what it's called now.
Is it called IKEA?
No, it's not called IKEA. It's called... Oh dear. I misplaced my notes on it. It's The Store Has Closed is the name of the game. So there's this game called The Store Has Closed, and it looks like when you're playing it looks like you're in an IKEA. Not a lot, not like they went and like duplicated everything, but it looks strangely very similar. And it has now become a meme for people to try and replicate it, including going to IKEAs and trying to hide inside of them for some stupid reason. Probably because, it looks like the game and people think it's funny. But IKEA has actually gotten to the point now where they're getting so tired of this that they've asked the horror game to change its general like look and feel so that people stop trying to replicate it. This is such a sad and weird story all at the same time. It's like, people, please. All those people working at IKEA, they're not paid enough to deal with your antics. Please stop doing this. Like, there are people trying to hide inside closets, under beds, like everything and there's been games that, people go to IKEA and they play like hide and go seek. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of funny, also very weird, but kind of funny all at the same time. I like to go to IKEA and have lunch.
They have great breakfast, man.
Yeah, the one near me stopped doing breakfast. I'm so sad.
What?
Yeah, I know. They don't open till 11 now. It's so disappointing.
There's literally so many reasons to go out to IKEA. The food, plus everything's just a little bit cheaper, even though you have to put it together yourself. But it's worth it.
But it's sad. It's sad that unfortunately this game, which apparently is really cool, is causing such issues for a lot of poor people who aren't just simply not paid enough to deal with this stuff. So it's kind of not good. So check out the game though. Looks interesting.
Yeah,
The Store Has Closed.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out when we're done. And then Mr. Cliff Bleszinski. The creator of Lawbreakers. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, he has put out a new book. It's an interesting read. It's called Control Freak: My Epic Adventure Making Video Games. He is a control freak, which, I mean, shocker. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you could tell by all the stuff that he's worked on.
Just so people know, people who don't know Cliff Bleszinski, he's done games like Unreal. He's done Gears of War. He did the very underrated Bulletstorm. And he did do Lawbreakers, but
he did do one of my favorite games, and a game that several of my young friends ended up playing and working with, and this is what actually got them into the video gaming industry, called Jazz Jackrabbit.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a very good game, and there's still an actually large modding base for it. So, very cool and very impressive. He's detailed a lot of his like difficulties. He had his father pass away when he was young. He had a lot of issues that he ended up dealing with very poorly. He really kind of opened up and talked about it. He talked about his failures and his successes. And I want to say that I've been harsh on him before, and I'm still harsh on him when it comes to his character design. Cliff, people like things that look good and look sexy, in like, even when it's in a rough, like super manly kind of way.
Yes.
People like that. People do not like looking at a character who looks like they're a meth addict that's on that also happens to have late stage cancer. And that was why your last game failed. Well, not his last game, but the game before that, Lawbreakers. That's why Lawbreakers failed. And he still doesn't get it. He still doesn't understand that, nah, dude, it wasn't because your game was bad. It was because your characters looked like butt. Like, not good butt, like really terrible butt.
like the drooping cellulite. No,
yeah, the drooping cellulite, like old homeless guy and has been beaten regularly kind of thing, which is a terrible thing. Not something to put in as your main character in a video game. Just say you either have to combine that with a really amazing, hard-hitting story, or you got to combine it with something that has a lot of meaning. And neither of those things were present, so or that's a lot of comedy. I mean, comedy can work like that too, but just generally a terrible idea.
All right, and that does it for the short story segment of the show. Hopefully, if you guys like that, let us know. We'll bring it back for a future episode. Now we got to get on to some of the bigger stuff. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this little announcement that a certain studio called CD Projekt Red made. They're announcing a remake for a game that actually could really use it. Witcher 1. Now, I've played some Witcher 3. I definitely really need to give it a great deal more time than I have. And Witcher 2, from what I understand, is a pretty damn good game in its own right. But from what I understand about the Witcher franchise, Witcher 1 is really not in a good state. Even those who try to mod it into a better state have really struggled. But thankfully, CD Projekt Red has made the public decision to do it their own. Do it in Unreal Engine 5. Syb, you're the big Witcher guy, big CD Projekt Red guy. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm so excited for all the naughty romance
unicorns,
porn cards. Yeah, for those who don't know, that was a thing in the initial first game. There's an actual collection system where you collect horny cards of characters in the game, including monsters. So
maybe I don't want to play this game anymore.
It's one of these things where it's like, I wonder if they're going to redo that, and I wonder what people's reaction to that will be. I've got to say that I found this information interesting. I also found some other information coming out of the CDPR that is confusing. One of their most recent big update videos was one of the heads talking about how they've gone full ESG. For those of you who don't know, ESG is a score system that ranks and helps to make companies more socially acceptable. But I might get in some trouble here, but I don't know if you know this, but when a bunch of bureaucrats and corporate, corporate megacorp types get together and plan out a system that's going to benefit them, usually that system actually just benefits them. It doesn't actually fix any actual problems. And so I don't think what we're going to see here from CD Projekt Red is going to be them fixing a lot of these problems. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I suspect in a few years, we'll probably still have some issues when it comes to them just rebuilding the same wheels over and over and over again, or management not listening to their staff, or possibly maybe even some overwork stuff. I think that's probably still going to be there. And why? Because systems don't fix things. Very rarely does a system fix things. It usually just complicates it more. So, let's hope the remake is good, and let's hope that maybe finally they've learned their lesson. Now, there has been some stuff in the past that I do want to point out that some of the complaints against them were somewhat phony, and were definitely there to try and hurt them. And instead of finding a way to work around that, they've just kind of gone, hey, well, let's just do what all the big corporate entities do. You think anybody at Coca-Cola is fixing any worldwide problems? The answer to that is no, because Bobby Kotick is still on their board of directors, at least last I checked. So, I mean, like
so Bobby Kotick is on the board of directors for Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, he and again, last I checked, he was in some hot water with Coke because they were, upset at the litany of crimes being committed at his company, the air quotes crimes under his watch. And then he came out and said, "There's going to be no more. We're going to come down hard on anybody who has any more allegations of violence or sexual harassment coming out." And then, he had a letter come out showing that he had emailed somebody or had gotten on a phone call that, he told somebody that he was going to have them killed. And then he said, "Yeah, but that rule doesn't apply to me." So, and again, it's like, this is ESG stuff, guys. Like, this is, it's like, is it good to try and help people? Yes, of course. Is it good to try and give everybody a fair shake? Yes, of course. Absolutely. I think that's very important. And I think it's great when a company looks at themselves and says, "Hey, you know what? We probably find some ways to incorporate some people with disabilities or handicaps or other issues in, because not everybody who has a handicap or a disability is incapable at doing a good job. Sometimes they're even better at certain jobs. I know some sound engineers who are, largely have vision issues. And one of the great things about that is that other aspect of them gets better at what they do. And that's not news. This has been around for a long time. And so I applaud that kind of stuff. But ESG is not the answer to this. ESG is more often a just a I don't know how, a stump. No, stump speeches aren't the right term. What is it, like soapbox or something like that? It's like somebody getting up saying, "Hey, look at how cool I am. Look at how amazing I am." It doesn't work. I've worked in companies that have these, the rules, and it's like, when you go to try to use them, turns out that they're not actually there to protect you, the worker. They're there to bloviate and fluff up the person in charge. They don't care about your disability. They don't care about other things on that scale. They're only there to to make somebody else look good. And for a company that's suffering a lot of PR issues, I think this was kind of a bad move. I think the best thing that they could have done was be like, "Hey, we're sorry we messed up. We're gonna stop trying to blow and toot our own horn. We're gonna actually try and get some stuff done here."
Good. Yep.
But we didn't see that. We saw them immediately go to this. So I don't know. I might be just more cynical about this, but I'm not actually thinking that this is going to fix any of their existing problems.
Mm. Sorry, I'm trying to hold back a cough. Okay. Yeah, I unfortunately I don't have much to say on this, because what's the next game that CD is probably working on? Is it going to be Witcher 1? Is it going to be Witcher 4?
Well, they've got there's a new Witcher game coming, a new trilogy coming, and they're going to have this remake coming. And they're doing a new a new Cyberpunk Red. Cyberpunk. Oh my goodness. A new Cyberpunk inspired game. Not necessarily 2077. They're just working on a new idea for that.
I could imagine, given the fact that all the basic outline for Witcher 1 is there, that they could probably have a small team at the studio working on it while they work on Witcher 4 full time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. So fingers crossed. Hopefully they'll be able to get back on their feet properly.
Yep.
But I do not trust them when it comes to this whole, "Hey, this ESG system is going to fix all our problems." It's like, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. You mean to say that it's just a front? Yeah, just for surface. And okay, yeah. All right. Next story. Apparently, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's been going on with Fallout that I completely missed this past week because I've been sick. Is it with the TV show? Is there like a new game going on?
So there was a new TV show. There was an official TV show image put out.
Oh, really? Yeah. Here, let me find this.
So this is the first showcase to the Fallout universe in the TV show that's been officially put out. We have Vault 33. We have an open vault door. We got somebody lying down or dead or knocked out near the door. We got somebody leaving the vault. This is very important. There's a couple of creators were like, look, guys, there's somebody coming into the vault. It's like, well, if they were coming into the vault, they must be left-handed, which I will say is a small possibility. But normally you always wear the Pip-Boy on your left arm. Always on your left arm.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's some mods where they've modded it so that it's on your right arm because there's some people who wanted to, have that. But there's no official record of any kind of a left arm thing that I could find. Again, I didn't sweep a whole lot, but I did look around and I was like, am I crazy? Is this not, and me and Ash both kind of like, yeah, no, we can't find this. So I might be wrong. I will try to be generous.
Okay.
But normally the Pip-Boy is always worn on your left arm. The image of the person is standing there on the left side. They got the Pip-Boy on what appears to be their left arm. Because again, it's like if it was on their right, if it's a standard Pip-Boy, the Pip-Boy is only going to be on is going to be on the left if they're walking away, and it's going to be on the right side if they're coming forward. Your right side when you're looking at the image, but it's on the left side, which means that the person's walking away from the vault door, not towards it. And they also have a holster on, which is on the right side, right next to what looks like the predominant hand. So that was the little, it wasn't huge. It was just a little bit of like a back and forth with some of the other content creators going, oh no, that looks like he's coming inside. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure he's going outside. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell.
Well, we could say if he's coming in and it's on that arm, then the show's going to be a total disaster because they don't get the lore.
Yeah. So it's just one of the things like that to me, like kind of made it where I think what we see from the scene is that we see this is going to be probably one of the things that happens in like the first episode or maybe the second or the third, depending on how they're spacing it out. But I think there's going to be a moment where somebody who grows up in the vault leaves the vault. Now, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but this was the plot line for the first game, and also the third game.
And also the fourth game.
And also the fourth game.
Yeah.
You go into a vault, and then stuff happens inside the vault, and then at some point, you leave the vault. And I know, it's a crazy concept. Everybody's like, what are you talking about? I mean, even in Fallout 2, I mean, the premise was set around people leaving the vault. Again, it's this crazy idea that in the show, we're going to get a show where we know we've seen a ton of stuff outdoors and like filming outdoors and filming outside, that the show might actually happen outside of the vault primarily. And then that the being inside the vault might just be a short piece or it may, be kind of the intro. And then maybe we might get some, swings back there depending on how the narrative goes. But I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be entirely based inside the vault because of all the other stuff we've seen. And again, because that's just the way that a Fallout game works, is you leave the vault. So I know I'm being a little snooty here with that, but that's what we see. And Ash and I go really, really deep into it. We kind of take everything apart. If you saw that video, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. But yeah, this looks exciting because we're starting to see some more noise on this. We're starting to see some good looks on this. And then the other thing that happened that came out of basically nowhere was that we had a ton of Fallout videos come out. They were called retrospective videos. There was the 25th anniversary of Fallout. That's certainly cool and interesting. But the amount of Fallout related videos that we got dropped, and the people that were in them, that was where things got really interesting. So we had a ton of videos come out. There was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of videos came out over the course of basically a week and a half, pretty much. And some of them had on the original creator, Tim Kaine. They had some people that are still active employees over at Obsidian. And they were all talking about how much they love Fallout and how much Fallout is important to them and how much they want to get more Fallout into your hands. It's almost as if they were building up to some kind of big announcement. Now, the last video only dropped as of this recording 4 days ago. So, and like I said, this has been happening over the course of several, for almost 2 weeks now. So, am I expecting a surprise announcement for a new Fallout game? No, not necessarily. But I am expecting a new announcement or some kind of like head nod to another game other than Fallout 5. I think we're definitely getting Fallout 5 from Bethesda. I don't think that's going to change at all.
Well, they already said they're going to do it, right? After 6, Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But what I think we're going to hear an announcement for, possibly in the near future, possibly in a year or so, possibly kind of close to maybe when the show drops, perhaps maybe. And here's a crazy rumor I've been hearing from a number of places. I can't confirm anything. So far as I know, this is just wishful thinking. But a lot of people in the gameverse are talking about 2 rumors that are going around. New Fallout project that has been under development for a while, air quotes, and remake projects that has been under work for a while, again, air quotes. What does this mean? I don't know. There's a lot of choices, there's a lot of things that they can do with this. One of the best ideas of what they could do with this would be to do a remake of Fallout 1 or 2.
Yeah. Specifically
1. Because it's not, it is a big game, but it's not that big. It's not as big as some people think it is. You can actually power through it in under, like, I think you can speed run it in under an hour. Not to say that speed runs are indicative of like, right, everything, but it's, if you were going to remaster it into a new isometric, third person view kind of thing, or if you were to remake it into a little bit more of a tighter narrative story to do for, say, a giant TV show, which is costing hundreds of millions of dollars to make, maybe doing that would be a really good idea.
Yes.
To have come out at around the same time as that, especially if it's based in the West Coast, which Fallout 33 has, and especially if they're trying to not relaunch the series, but to announce it to a larger community.
Right, because, we talked about this in the past about how it seems like Microsoft is going to be moving away. Now that they've acquired Bethesda, they're going to be moving away from Halo being sort of their main mascot and putting all their funding and attention behind Fallout. I think what you just suggested there about a remake for Fallout 1 or 2 makes the most sense because they just acquired Obsidian. I don't think they've had enough time to put towards Fallout New Vegas 2 or whatever the hell that's going to be. They've been working on the Outer Worlds 2. Fallout 5 is going to be, like 10 years away. So I would imagine that Bethesda probably did something like give Fallout 1 to another studio, a studio that they trust, so that they can release something like that alongside the new TV show when it comes next year. Because that's what everybody's doing, Silent Hill, new games, new movie, Last of Us.
Especially, here's a thought, especially if they were to remake Fallout 1 in a brand new engine, don't change anything except add more voice lines, add more dialogue, add some more encounters, stuff like that. If they were going to do that, that's actually relatively easy because your story is basically all written. You have a ton of cutting room floor content that you can probably add in or tweak out a little bit. Wouldn't take very much time to hit up a couple of the people who made that game and are still working at Obsidian today. Still, there's still people who did that. So hit up those people. They had Tim Kaine, one of the original head designers of the game. They had him in there. And it wouldn't be that hard to get them together to say, hey, we're going to do a new game. What we're going to do is we're going to remake this in an isometric kind of perspective. And the other thing that we're going to do, because it's turn-based and it's actually kind of really works well for this, you could put this on a phone game. You could literally put this on a phone because it's designed, you can pick it up, play it, and stop it like as long as you have like this auto-save feature on it. You can literally like just play and go whenever. And because it's an isometric game, it's turn-based, that actually really works quite well for phones because you can pick it up, you can do it. That, again, this is just me pipe dreaming this. But if I was going to pitch anything to a studio like Microsoft, when they first bought Obsidian, then they bought Bethesda, they knew that deal was coming down. This was a few years ago now that they knew and that they were planning. This was right before 76. They knew that they were going to be buying out the studio. The main guy behind ZeniMax passed away. Basically, he had been wanting to take it public. The investors wanted to go public with it. They realized that they were making a lot of mistakes, especially after 76 came out. So they said, you know what, just sell it off. Microsoft has offered us a really great deal for it. Let's just cash out now. So that was the original investors, all that kind of stuff. But if you got all the people who made, Fallout 1, 2, 3, and 4 now, and New Vegas, and you got them all into a room and said, hey, you guys are all with the same company in approximately like a month or two, can we work on something like, we got this Fallout TV show coming. Can we find a way to remake the first game and reintroduce it, with all the bugs ironed out, with all the issues kind of like worked out, make it even better, bring it into a brand new kind of isometric world? Would that be a good idea? I can't imagine that anybody would say no to that.
Yeah.
Like it just seems ridiculous to me that either nobody would say no to that or nobody would think of that. So again, I love Fallout. And I am most certainly letting my imagination run a little haywire here. So please don't.
But it's reasonable. Like what you're saying, it does sound reasonable. It would be unreasonable to say Fallout New Vegas 2 is coming out next year. That would be unreasonable.
Yeah, that would be unreasonable. There's just not enough people with the time and all that energy. There is, I think, what we did get to with this, at the very least, is a confirmation that we are getting a New Vegas 2 at some point. They haven't announced it, but the fact that you got all these people inside the same room and they're all sitting there agreeing with each other and they're all sitting there saying, yeah, let's we love Fallout and this is a really important IP and hey, we're all under the same house. I think you'd be insane to say no. They have no intention of working together and making something that everybody is literally begging them to make.
Yeah.
Like I just don't see it. So I think, yes, that is on its way somewhere. And there's a lot of people in the gaming sphere that have basically nodded their heads to that this is a conversation that is happening on the regular and that this is something that, expect to see at some point. Yeah. That's what we're hearing from a lot of people. So
it's inevitable. Give it 4 years, maybe 5 at most. All right. Lots of reason to be a big Fallout fan. I really got to get back to playing New Vegas and finishing the DLC. I'm going through it for the first time. Let's finish with my man Hideo Kojima. Peace be upon him. He recently gave an extensive interview to The Guardian, the UK-based outlet. He is talking about wanting to reinvent the wheel of gameplay, like he said he was going to do with Death Stranding. With the whole it's more about just making deliveries and establishing connections with people. Very different type of game. And even though I think Death Stranding is his weakest game, I do think it was a successful experiment. I gain greater appreciation for it every year that goes by. But, it didn't revolutionize things like he started talking about in this interview. He says for his new game, which he's currently in the process of teasing, apparently Elle Fanning is going to be in the new game, the actress. He says that this new game that he's working on is, quote, "It's almost like a new medium. If this succeeds, it will turn things around." Now, this is the interesting part. It will turn things around not just in the game industry, but in the movie industry as well. He also goes on to say, you can have successful experiments, and he obviously wants this to be a successful experiment, but those experiments don't always result in everyday usage. So what he was sort of hoping to do with Death Stranding was sort of have a bunch of other Death Stranding clones or have that style of gameplay adopted by other studios. That didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Now, because it's Hideo Kojima, I think that he's going to have success with whatever this new experimental game is. You know, he's an auteur. He has yet to make a bad game, as far as I'm concerned. But whether or not it evolves into the next big thing, we'll have to see. I'll be rooting for him, though. Yeah, I worship at his altar. I don't know. Like, what could it be? Like, merging of the game and movie industry. But that's the only tease that he got. I mean, like, we know that he's a big fan of movies. His games are very cinematic. Syb, do you have any like ideas or any enthusiasm about these comments?
I do. And I'm going to toot my own horn just a little bit here. One of the many friends that I have overseas, especially in Japan, is most certainly people who work for Hideo Kojima. I was the first YouTuber to call out and say that his previous game, Death Stranding, was going to be coming to the PC. And people were like, "Ha, you're so stupid." And then that happened.
Right.
And I didn't call that like I didn't call that like a few weeks before the thing. That was almost a year before that announcement actually came out. And again, it's the conversation was Hideo Kojima thinks that having his game for a limited number of audience members is stupid, and he wants the most people to get access to his game, period.
Good. That's why it's coming to Xbox now, right? Death Stranding?
Yeah. So I have had some conversations with people who, again, offered the same access to information as that before. And I will say that I can't get into too much, but I will say that the tech that they're working on is stuff that we've chatted on this channel a lot about before, in the form of being able to create content on the fly, being able to do things that, being able to give people the ability to do things that normally you would need a massive studio for. The only limitation is the infrastructure of what can be offered to everybody. So there are some hangups that they're dealing with as far as infrastructure goes. And I believe they actually mentioned that in this article. Am I not? I don't know if you have it pulled up in front of you.
No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure that's kind of the issue that they're struggling with, is exactly like the ideas are there, the concept is there, the infrastructure is, it may be lagging behind a little bit, and trying to be the first to really nail that, it's a dangerous thing, because you run the risk of failure. And when you are leading the charge into some new technology, it's very easy for you to come out with something that is a core part of the future of the human race, and then to have it stolen from you by somebody else. And if you go, no, that's ridiculous. It's like, well, just look at what, Nikola Tesla did, and a couple other inventors. People came up with ideas that you utilize. Not only do you utilize, you require it every day. And somebody else managed to beat them to the punch when it came to marketing that idea. They just straight up stole most of Tesla's technology.
Yeah.
Just straight up stole it. He won a court case, and they were ordered to hand over basically their entire company to him. And they just said, nah. And they didn't. And they never settled that. And everybody just went on and said, oh, well, I guess that's fine now. I guess, catch what you can. It's like, okay, right. Wow, that's insane. Like seriously, I am floored by that as a generalized concept. So yeah, they're working on stuff and they have some hurdles. I don't know if they're going to manage it or not. If it is what I'm thinking it is, and if what it was hinted to me it is, again, we've talked about technology that's very similar to this multiple times before on the show. That's something that I've been, saying that this is going to change. This is going to create something new. This is going to be a new medium. And again, I think that's an actual quote that he had. So yeah. Yeah, I hope he's right too, and I hope maybe this time I get a little bit more credit for this.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. But no, seriously. I think he's a great guy, and the fact that he wanted, again, Death Stranding wasn't quite like what people thought it was. I told some of our fans that it was going to be a little bit more heady, and not necessarily like, it's going to be slower paced, more like. It's going to be a more methodical game. That's not saying that people who don't like it are dumb or whatever. That was just saying that it's a different kind of game. And it was a very different kind of game. It's not necessarily what people assume that it was definitely going to be. It came out to be something a little bit different. And that's not a bad thing. In this case, I think it was a good play. So, because I mean, again, you got to think this guy's thinking of the future here. Death Stranding was a success for the most part.
Yep.
It was a little weird. Yes, people got that weirdness. That's fine. But
why were people so surprised by that? It's Hideo Kojima.
Yeah. No, I do. Like, people were expecting like just way more shooting and stuff like that, and I'm like, when has that ever been in? Like, even with the Metal Gear games, they were not designed for. They were not a shooter. They were not a Twitch based like. Go run around a room and shoot 20 waves of enemies. It's like this just wasn't what it was about. And then when somebody tried to do that with his title, we got Metal Gear Survive, and look how that turned out. It's not exactly what we hope to see, but it is an interesting what he's got and what he's working on and what he wants to make is an interesting concept, and I hope that I hope he nails it.
Yeah,
because he is thinking ahead of the crowd. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that
it works out,
it works out or gets picked up by everybody. Sometimes being ahead of your time is actually a curse, and you actually get trumped on. And it's easy for me to sit back here and say that kind of stuff and to kind of gloat about some things every once in a while. But it's very different to be on the front line and to be actually pushing that stuff. And so I really hope that the players and that his fans and that he and his team can actually pull this off, because if it is what I'm thinking it is, then we're going to have like, this is really going to change a lot of things. And this is really going to change your entertainment, especially when it comes to film and movies as well. And I think about time, like really, like seriously, just, I mean, pick out any one of the top like 5 shows, top as in like, anticipated and like big shows that have come out in recent time, and tell me if those games have if those shows have done justice to their to their original lore. And I think the answer to that is absolutely not. So let's hope that this is going to come out the way it is. And again, thanks to all my friends over in Japan. Hope you guys nail this one.
Yeah. So I hope the same, because Hideo Kojima, God bless him, he's not getting any older, and he's only going to have so many more attempts games with his beautiful brain, and very much looking forward to this one. All right, I got to go take some cough lozenges. I can't even talk. Throat lozenges, get some Halls, get some honey tea, and take a long-ass nap. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Maximum News. Make sure you hit that like button if you like this episode. It really helps us out. It tells the YouTube algorithm that not only this video, but all the other videos on the Triple S Podcast channel are worth watching. I want to thank Syb, as always, especially for carrying this episode, because I haven't been feeling that great. Like, I had to mute so many times because I was coughing. Syb, can you please tell people about the main channel real quick?
Yeah, check out the Triple S League for a bunch of game guides. We had a lot of coverage on this Fallout stuff, and we're going to have a lot more stuff on there over the next few years. We always have content coming out, so check us out.
They absolutely do. And you guys can find me on just all the regular forms of social media, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. Just at Max Derrat. I'll put links to that and Syb stuff in the description box below. Thanks, guys. Until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, stay yellow. Bye.
Bye.
I took his bye. Sorry. Bye-bye.